modern Ohio history. I mean, we, working with the leaders, have basically changed the culture. Instead of waiting 2 years to fix things, we're fixing them on a daily basis, and this 3,500-page bill was at times overwhelming to the members of the legislature because they'd never seen anything like this before. But I have to tell you, they pursued a great strategy, a smart strategy of breaking the bills up and handing them over to the various committees. And you know, we had 16 separate pieces of legislation coming through the NBR that passed within about a month. In the last couple days, with a tremendous number of important pieces of legislation that passed. And I will just mention a few. First of all, the energy legislation that we passed, which is, in my opinion, going to ensure we have a strong energy industry in Ohio for 100 years, came about because, first of all, our staffer, Wayne Struble, who has been on the fracking issue for a long time, and also the great work of Senator Niehaus, who patiently, for weeks, sat down to make sure that we came out with the right legislation that would ensure that the industry could go forward, but at the same time we would protect the environment. So what we have done on the fracking legislation, including the disclosure of chemicals, is the most aggressive in the entire country. As you know, we also have a lot of coal, so we have passed in the Capitol bill amount of money for carbon sequestration, which we think is very important. We've signed MOUs with other states to try to build a compressed natural gas industry, which I think it is very possible we will have within a decade. And we also, of course, believe in solar and wind, but we were also able to add to that waste heat, which means that companies can become more efficient, the environment can be cleaner, and it's a win-win for both business and the environment, and just absolutely terrific. The Energy MBR, as I say, I think will serve us well for this industry for generations to come. The Education MBR, and a particular shout out to Batch for his work on a couple things in this bill. First of all, the third grade reading guarantee, and the work of my education staff, Dick and Barb and Sarah and Ben, and for the two leaders here to make sure that we could have a standard that's reasonable, enforceable, and something that's going to really give our young people an opportunity to be successful. As Dick Ross likes to say, you know, in the early years you learn to read, so that in the later years you read to learn. And we have an end of social promotion. This is not a penalty. This is not something we spring on anybody, but starting in kindergarten or pre-kindergarten, we start working to make sure that our children can read and can perform. Also in this bill is a blended education situation where school districts can now send up blended education so kids can learn at their own speed using the modern technology of the 21st century. This is really a breakthrough piece of this legislation that's been largely ignored. So if a school district wants to set up a special course in algebra or Spanish or whatever, the young student can get credit by successfully navigating that course and getting a good grade. And so that's the 21st century. That's a glimpse of the future. We also have another thing in here that's extremely exciting, and that is the notion that in the very early years, starting in the first grade, we're going to give kids a chance to think about what they want to be in life. And I constantly tell kids, well, once you retire from your career in the major leagues, what then would you like to do? And so we're going to start working, and you know, this whole issue of job training and everything is all kind of molded into this. So this is an early look for children in this area of education. There's one other piece I wanted to mention, but can you help me? Well, employment first, that's for the disabled so that they have an opportunity to enter the workforce rather than having a default option in the sheltered workshop. Terrific education bill. The Cleveland school bill, you got to be kidding me. This is it's historic. And when we think about industrial states, you know, we've seen some significant reform in Louisiana. We've seen some significant reform in Louisiana and in Indiana, and some in Florida. You know, as an urban industrial state, this is the most significant education reform I think we've seen in the country. Of course, Mayor Jackson gets enormous credit. Bill Batchelder working through the challenges of the charters. Tom Niehaus having his education team ready to move, and strong bipartisanship. By the way, the energy bill, also strong bipartisanship. In fact, in the energy bill, Sean O'Brien played a major role in getting this bill out, and there was significant Democratic input, is my understanding. And Sean, he was a hero in this, but on this Cleveland school plan, failure was not an option. Republicans and Democrats came together, the business community of Cleveland, the fantastic mayor of Cleveland, a terrific accomplishment. And I'm very excited about the fact that we were able to get that done, obviously. The EPA omnibus. Now, who talks about EPA bills, but you know, actually business likes this. And we believe you can have a clean environment, and you can also not have to hamper business. And Scott Nally has done great work in working this bill through. It also received wide bipartisan support. DWA, dangerous wild animals. I can't believe how long it took, but as you know, we got that done, and it was really, really terrific. The gaming bill that just passed. So instead of going to referendum and having somebody come in and buy something, we got the casinos in place, we have the rules in place, we have the Casino Commission in place. Jay, thank you for this. And at the same time, we've allowed the VLTs at the racetrack, but we have not turned Ohio into a casino state. You know, every corner you got another gambling operation. We work to try to restrict and limit the amount of gaming in our state, and making sure where it is that it's actually going to make sense. Hidden compartments. We have a drug crisis in Ohio. We have a drug crisis in America. Hidden compartments gives the patrol the tools they need to continue to make the major busts, both on prescription drugs and heroin and cocaine. They came to us, they said they needed it. We worked through this bill, making sure we preserve people's liberties and right to possession of their vehicles, but at the same time it will be a big plus for the highway patrol and the fight against drug addiction. Human trafficking, I've already mentioned. Collateral sanctions, another bill with strong bipartisan support, as there was with the hidden compartments bill. The collateral sanctions is about redemption, and everybody gets a chance to be redeemed while this administration and this legislature is in power. It's going to give people a second chance, and you couple that with the sentencing reform and the leadership of Gary Moore, and other states are beginning to look at what's happening in Ohio, because we've become a very good model. A bunch of other things to mention in here, which I at this point will go unmentioned, but tremendous amount of work and accomplishment in a short period of time, changing the culture, making government more efficient and more effective. This is what it's really all about. And the bottom line, of course, is it gets people excited. I just talked to a major CEO today. He says, we know what's happening in Ohio. That's why we're looking at Ohio. I mean, we've had our great economic wins, up over 73,000 jobs. Wait in anxious anticipation for the job report tomorrow, as I've warned. I'm concerned about the numbers, but we'll see. And we're going to continue to push and shove and reduce the cost of doing business, help job creators, reward taxpayers, and we do all that. I think we're hitting on all cylinders. So exciting time, but I have to say, as much has been accomplished through the budget and through the mid-biennium review, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm glad that Tim Keene is here, members of the cabinet, and I've got to thank the Speaker of the House. The Speaker's on a tight time schedule, but he wanted to be here, and I'd like to recognize him for appropriate comments.